you work with protocol inhibitors or clopidogrel, well, cytochrome 2C19 is important there. And if you would have an HIV patient which you would be treating with efavirenz, well, then you would have to look at cytochrome 2B6. So again, it depends very much on the patient that you're looking at, which of these enzymes is of importance to you. But again, you're dosing everybody as if everybody has the same enzymatic activity, and that's not the case. If you look, for instance, at the cytochrome 2B6, to the distribution of enzyme activity as measured by the metabolism of the rhizokine, an antihypertensive, you can see that there's 60 to 70% that has a normal activity, but 5 to 10% of the population is deficient. 5 to 10% of the population misses this important enzyme. We have a group in between, 15% intermediate metabolizers, and we have a group here which are ultra-rapid metabolizers, 2 to 5%. So remember, 20% of the drugs that we are prescribing are being metabolized by cytochrome 2B6. You can see, based on the metabolic ratio, we are having a factor of 1,000 difference between individuals. And perhaps you should take that into account when we are prescribing drugs. And we can do that because the solution for this special distribution is genetics. 2 active alleles are normal metabolizers. If you have 1 inactive allele for 2D6, you're an intermediate metabolizer because you only encode for half of the enzymatic activity. And you have 2 inactive alleles, you are a poor metabolizer. Well, the ultra-rapid metabolizers was a little bit of a question at the time, what could be causing this? And then these people would have a gene duplication. It's one of the first TNVs described, I guess. So based on a genetic analysis, which you can do up front, so before you start the therapy, by for instance a blood draw or a cheek swab, you can predict whether your patient will have an ultra-rapid or poor metabolizer or is somewhere between the average group. And this information can be used. So I told you like 20% of commonly prescribed drugs, but here are some of the drugs that are indeed the substrate of this cytochrome 2B6. You can see a lot of antidepressants, antihypertensives, beta blockers, pain medication, ADHD medication, antiarrhythmics, a lot of drugs are being effective. And remember, 5 to 10% of the people cannot metabolize these drugs well because they're deficient in this cytochrome 2B6. And I would like to give you an example of how that would work out. And we thought that psychiatry would be the specialism which would benefit most from pharmacogenetics. And the reason is twofold. The first reason is that a lot of antidepressants, it's very difficult to put a patient on the right dose of antidepressant. It takes 4 to 6 weeks before you can see a clinical effect. In the first 2 weeks, usually a patient only feels worse. So you have to tell the patient, please keep taking the drug, it will get better after 4 to 6 weeks. And sometimes it doesn't, and then you have to switch the therapy. So this is a reason why you want additional factors to predict if a patient is doing well on this specific therapy. And the second reason it's important is that most of the antidepressants are being metabolized by the cytochrome 2B6. So we did our own experiment on that in Erasmus MC. So we're in an academic center. Patients have been on several SSRIs already, and in our center they've been put on imipramine, which is a classical drug, tricyclic antidepressant, being metabolized with cytochrome 2B6. And the way we do that is put them out of all of the drugs for 1 week, and then we start the therapy. And we make the dosing of the therapy based on the blood concentration. However, it takes 1 week before we can measure a good steady-state concentration. So after 1 week, it appeared that we had to change the dose of 50% of the patient. A little bit more or a little bit less. So then you have to wait for another week, take another blood sample, adjust the dose again, perhaps another week and another week. In total, these patients were in average 4 to 6 weeks in an academic hospital. And the cost in the Netherlands of being in an academic hospital is 800 to 900 euros per day. So that's very costly. So we figured if this is being metabolized by cytochrome 2B6, what is the relation between the final dose, which we found by trial and error, and the genetics? So the final imipramine dose by TDM compared to the active copies of the cytochrome 2B6. These are the normal metabolizers, the poor metabolizer, intermediate, and the ultra-rapids. And we found that the normal metabolizers required something like 275 milligrams per day. Where would you think that the poor metabolizers would end up? Lower or a higher dose? Any idea? Indeed, a lower dose. They need less of the dose to get to the same plasma concentration because they lack the enzyme to metabolize. The intermediate metabolizers ended up exactly in between, and the ultra-rapid metabolizers were there. When I designed this experiment, I never thought it would turn out this nicely. It's like a textbook one. The more copies of 2 to 6, the more enzymatic activity, the higher the dose you need to get to the same therapeutic concentration. Just don't be fooled completely. There is, of course, distribution among these averages here. So you can still have some overlap. But in general, on the averages, you can see there's a very clear relationship. And in fact, you can see there's not a little difference. Like the poor metabolizers only 30% of the standard dose. So that's a huge difference. And in fact, we were not the only ones that found this. This is like a publication from Stingel in 2013. You can see here all the antidepressants. On the first row, you can see what is the dose that would be required to get to the proper therapeutic level. So for imipramine, which I just showed you, 28% of the standard dose. It's never that precise, right? It's somewhere between 25 and 35%. Intermediate metabolizer, 75%. And the ultra-rapid metabolizer, almost double the dose. The most important message of this slide is we do have the information. It's available in the literature. If you know the genotype, you can know what would be the best dose for this patient to start with. And you can choose if you still want to give imipramine, doxepin, or nortriptyline, you can reduce the dose if you want to give those drugs. Or you can make another choice and take a drug which is less effective by cytokine 26. So you can make a very clear clinical decision based on the genetics. This goes also for the antipsychotics. It's shown here, like risperidone, aripiprazole, 60% of the standard dose for poor metabolizers. And again, the main message is we know what is the best dose for patients if we know the genotype. So I think we should use them. So let's go back to this case, which I started this lecture with. 2D6 format, or the 20-year-old man not experiencing any side effect of the antidepressant nortriptyline that you had prescribed him 2 months ago. Why is it not working in this particular patient? And I can give away that the nortriptyline is being metabolized by cytokine 2D6. Any suggestions why it's not working? Who dares to say something? Yes, please. It's a fast metabolizer, exactly. Thank you very much. Anybody disagreeing with that? No? Well, the point is, of course, non-compliance still plays a very important role here. It's estimated that 30% of the patients are non-compliant, and only 2 to 3% are ultra-rapid metabolizers. So your answer is not completely wrong, because this is exactly the reason why psychiatrists ask for this test. Can you imagine? The patient comes to your clinic and claims the drug is not working. Then you ask him, do you take the drug as I prescribed you? And the patient tells you, yes, I do. The question is then, do you release your patient? So a lot of psychiatrists then first ask for the genetic test to exclude whether it's an ultra-rapid metabolizer or not. But there's another interesting part there. We once got 10 samples from a clinic, and they said, we think they're all ultra-rapid metabolizers because the drug concentrations are very low and it's not helping the patients. When we analyzed those patients, from the 10, 0 were ultra-rapid metabolizers. So that was a disappointment. But it turned out that 9 out of the 10 were in fact poor metabolizers. Exactly the opposite as you would expect. And then you start to think about it. Well, probably the poor metabolizers, if you get the normal dose, they develop side effects. And the side effect will make them non-compliant with the therapy. So you can see here that also either ultra-rapid or poor metabolizers may be a cause why a drug is not working. Either because it's metabolized too fast, or patients become non-compliant. I have a second case also from the clinic in 2015 to share with you. This is a 26-year-old woman seen at Erasmus MC with complaints and side effects of fluoxetine and SSRI, which she has been prescribed because of her depression. Her medical record shows that she has been suffering from depression since childhood. And when we looked at her treatment history, we found that she first started on paroxetine, standard dosing, but there were many side effects. So based on the side effects, they switched her to clomipramine. Again, she had side effects, a high plasma concentration, so the therapy was stopped as well, and she was switched to nortriptyline. Standard dosing, high plasma concentration, and they will stop it. Then she was prescribed antipsychotic, risperidone, low dosing, extrapyramidal side effects, and for that reason stopped. And now she's on fluoxetine, 20 to 60 milligrams per day against side effects. So what could be the cause here? Her clinician, her psychiatrist, asked her, I think it was the one prescribing nortriptyline, are you taking the drugs as I'm prescribing them? And she said, yes, I do. And this clinician told this patient, you're lying. I can see on your blood levels that you're lying to me. What I think that you're doing, this is a real case example, what I think that you're doing, you're not taking the drugs at all. You save them all, and one day before you get to my clinic, you take all the drugs at once. That's why you have a high plasma concentration when you get to my clinic. This really happens. If I look at the schedule, I can see metabolized by 2D6, metabolized by cytochrome 2D6, 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 2D6. And when we get a genotyping, this patient was too deficient of this 2D6. This was a poor metabolizer. She was very happy when we found this result. And imagine this patient has been struggling with her medication for depression for 13 years, just because the clinician didn't think. Do you need pharmacogenetics to solve this problem? No. You just have to know that this is metabolized by 2D6 and this is metabolized by 2D6. On this stage, I would already know it would probably be a 2D6 poor metabolizer. No genetic test needed. And based on that, you would have to prescribe, especially non-nortriptyline, because that's very much dependent on 2D6. So you can see that ignorance in the clinic also is still causing problems there. And like I said, this was a case from 2015, so almost 4 years ago. I showed you the relation between the plasma concentration and the genetics, but the point is, if you know it now in advance, would that help you? Would you treat your patients better? Well, there was a study in 2013 looking at depressed patients treated with antidepressants, and they looked at the responders by depression rating at 8 weeks. And these are 3 different depression rating scales. And they compared conventional therapy in blue with DNA-guided therapy in red. And what they found, that if you look at conventional therapy, only 23 to 31% of the patients responded at 8 weeks. But if you use DNA to guide therapy, to have this first dose, you can see that the percentage is much higher, 44 to 50%. So this shows clearly that knowing this information in advance and adjusting the therapy based on this will help the patient. The patient gets well earlier, which is good for the patient, which is good for the healthcare provider. I think it's also good for the economics of the healthcare. This has been repeated. In 2018, there has been a meta-analysis of 5 randomized controlled trials, all looking into the pharmacogenetic test and depression symptoms remission. And more or less, this gave the same result. There's a factor 1.7, which you can see that your patients improve and that they are well much earlier. So again, this was very well documented. So if you look at the implementation of pharmacogenetics in the Netherlands, it's doing quite well. I mean, 60% of the tests that we are getting are from psychiatry department. So this is for almost 10,000 test requests in 2018. There are those recommendations ready for antidepressants and antipsychotics. We started the pharmacogenetics study in psychiatry, so Rose from Wesleyan is a psychiatrist and clinical pharmacologist, so she's helping on that. We have pharmacogenetics education now integrated in the curriculum of the psychiatrists. There are Dutch guidelines being made. We hope to publish them, or we hope to publish them in 2019, but it will be 2020. And there's a pharmacogenetics workshop, is now a recurrent event in the annual Dutch Psychiatry Congress. So pharmacogenetics in psychiatry is getting more and more people in there. So if I would have to draw a graph for where are we with implementation of pharmacogenetics in the clinic, it's shown here. Usually I have like 2.5% innovators, 13% early adopters, then you have the early majority, the late majority, and the laggards, so they will never do it. I think the psychiatry is somewhere in the middle. We see quite an uptake in pharmacogenetics in psychiatry. Let's go to a second biomarker, not cytochrome 2D6, but cytochrome 2C19. And this is a discussion which is currently very hot in the Netherlands. It's about clopidogrel and cytochrome 2C19. Clopidogrel is being prescribed to patients which have acute myocardial infarction. The clopidogrel is a prodrug. It needs to be activated in the liver, and the enzyme responsible for that is the cytochrome 2C19. Does everybody has the same 2C19 activity? And again, of course, the answer is no. There are genetic polymorphisms which make that 2% of the Caucasian population is a poor metabolizer of 2C19. 60 or 40% of the population only has one active allele, so it's an intermediate metabolizer. So in general, you have like 1/4 of the population, the Caucasian population, which does not have the full 2C19 activity. There's an interesting difference also between ethnicities. For instance, if you look at the Asian population, we have 11% poor metabolizers compared to 40% the Caucasian population, and 36% intermediate metabolizers. So almost half of the Asian population will have a decreased 2C19 activity. And the question now is, does this affect the ability to activate the clopidogrel? You can see here a meta-analysis which is published in 2011, looking at if you're a carrier from a deficient 2C19 allele, and looking at the endpoints of death, myocardial infarction, stroke, stent thrombosis. You can see this is the risk of 1 here in this line. You can see that all studies show an increased risk of having these severe endpoints. And this was published in not the least of journals. You can see JAMA, New England Journal of Medicine, New England Journal of Medicine, Lancet, New England Journal of Medicine, Lancet, etc. So a lot of information, a lot of proof, if you want, all showing the same direction. Don't prescribe clopidogrel to patients that are deficient in 2C19. And in fact, you can have a very nice rationale to use this. You test for 2C19 variants. If there are no variants, so you have active 2C19, it's safe to prescribe clopidogrel. But if you find a variant, you know that they cannot activate the clopidogrel sufficiently, so you use an alternative, which is prasugrel. Prasugrel is much more expensive, has some more bleeding events, but in this way it's a good alternative. And nowadays also ticagrelor is used a lot of times. So in fact, you use the genetic test to have an economic treatment if it's possible, and only the expensive treatment if it's really needed. Well, even the FDA had a look at this, and they also were convinced of the evidence. So this is the boxed warning on clopidogrel that was issued. It tells you that the effectiveness of clopidogrel depends on activation by 2C19. That there are poor metabolizers that exhibit higher cardiovascular event rates. There are tests available that you should consider an alternative treatment for at least the poor metabolizers. So this is an official recommendation of the FDA in the drug label. A couple of years later, the European Society of Cardiology guidelines came out in 2015. I was very curious to see if these recommendations were taken up. And I found this very interesting sentence here. It said, at present, genetic testing cannot be recommended in a routine clinical practice due to insufficient prospective data. That's strange, right? I just showed you all the evidence. It's very clear. Also, the FDA was convinced of the evidence. Only the cardiologists were not convinced. So how are we going to deal with this? Where is the liability? And in fact, in the US, there have been several trials of patients suing cardiologists because they did not test for 2C19, where there is a clear warning in the drug label that in fact you should. Also in the Netherlands, we found that the uptake was not completely the same. There is this very famous hospital in this city, Nieuwegein, Antonius Hospital. They test every patient that they are going to prescribe clopidogrel with cytochrome 2C19. And just to give you some indication, we're talking here of a cost of €80 per patient. I can assure you that the cost of treating a patient that had acute myocardial infarction is far higher than the €80. So these cardiologists are convinced. They test for 2C19. I went to my own hospital in Rotterdam, the Erasmus University Medical Center, and I told to the head of the cardiologist, wow, we can do 2C19 testing. And he said, but what's the alternative if you find somebody that has a deficiency? He said, well, then you can prescribe prasugrel. And his solution was just prescribe prasugrel to everybody, because then you do not have to worry about the genetic testing. It's much simpler. And then I told him, well, that's much more expensive. I thought I had a good argument there. And then he said, well, the DNA test we have to pay from the department budget. But the drug goes from the hospital budget, so as a department head, I do not feel those costs. So then you can see that there are all kinds of other arguments why pharmacogenetics is not always acceptable.